The brothers, once called unbreakable, now stand worlds apart. But this wasn't just another family feud. It was the day Prince William confronted Prince Harry over an explosive accusation that Harry wanted more than his fair share of their royal inheritance. What unfolded behind palace doors stunned even the Queen's most loyal aides and shattered what remained of their brotherly bond. Before we go deeper into what this really means for the royal family, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single update. It was a moment meant to be private, locked away from public scrutiny, but the tension inside Kensington Palace that afternoon could not be contained. Behind the heavy, soundproofed doors of a secure room, a space reserved for confidential family strategy, William stood tall, tight-lipped, as Harry arrived, reportedly late and already visibly tense. What began as a routine discussion about financial matters quickly spiraled into chaos. Harry, voice raised, accused his older brother of manipulating their late mother's will, suggesting that William, now the Prince of Wales, had worked behind the scenes to redirect a greater share of Diana's assets to himself. William's reaction wasn't immediate anger, it was disbelief, then simmering fury. Caught off guard, William shot back, not with denial, but with a stinging counter-accusation. He claimed that Harry's lifestyle in California, complete with private security, luxury estates, and a mounting list of brand deals, had driven him to demand more of their inheritance under the guise of justice. Harry allegedly fired back, reminding William of Diana's deep mistrust of the monarchy's traditions and her wish to protect them both from being swallowed by the institution. But William wasn't budging. He insisted he had honored every legal and moral obligation, and it was Harry who had chosen exile, and with it, the forfeiture of certain privileges. What was meant to be a discussion between two brothers quickly escalated into a scene that startled even seasoned palace staff. Security was discreetly alerted as voices grew louder, walls trembling with echoes of old wounds reopened. Kate, who had reportedly been just down the corridor, was said to be visibly shaken when she intervened, finding William pale with rage and Harry red-eyed and resolute. But what truly fractured the room wasn't the yelling, it was what both men said about Diana. Harry evoked her memory like a shield, claiming she would be ashamed of how William had let the crown silence her legacy. William, with tears on the edge of his voice, said that if Diana could see Harry now, she would barely recognize him. And as the confrontation burned itself out, what neither brother said aloud hung heaviest in the air. Because somewhere, buried beneath years of sealed documents and royal protocol, a clause in Diana's will long overlooked was about to be unearthed. A clause that would reignite old fears, expose bitter truths, and become the very fuse that lit the inferno. But what exactly was in the late Princess Diana's will that could cause such a meltdown decades later? The answer would unearth a secret buried deep beneath the marble floors of the royal estate. For years, the public believed Diana's estate had been divided fairly, but a sealed clause, only recently made known to the brothers, rewrote everything. It named an undisclosed heirloom and a second financial trust, reportedly intended for one son only. Which son? The answer not only shocked Harry, it enraged him. The revelation didn't come in a dramatic announcement, but in silence in the form of a legal briefing sent to both William and Harry through their respective lawyers. Hidden within the footnotes of Diana's original will was a sunset clause, triggered only if both sons reached adulthood without intervention from the crown. That moment had come and gone years earlier. But its activation was quietly filed away, forgotten or ignored, until Harry's recent push to revisit his inheritance pulled it from the shadows. The clause outlined not just the division of wealth, but the existence of a second trust, separate from the widely publicized estate. This trust, according to sources close to the matter, was tied to Diana's private fortune. Money she had kept hidden even from royal accountants, and its intended recipient was not mentioned by name but by implication. The language was delicate, but unmistakable. To the son who lives beyond the royal expectation. When Harry read those words, he reportedly broke down. For him, it was confirmation that his mother had always envisioned him breaking free, and that she had made provisions to support that escape. But jubilation turned to fury when he learned that the trust had already been moved quietly, without consultation, into a fund now managed by William's office. Legal ambiguity over Diana's original wording had allowed the executors, guided by senior royal counsel, to interpret the clause in favour of William, arguing that living beyond royal expectation did not equate to leaving the institution altogether. For Harry, this felt like a betrayal, not only by William, but by the very system Diana had feared. Even more damning was the discovery of an heirloom clause, an addendum referencing the Spencer Vault collection, a private set of artifacts, letters, and jewels passed down through Diana's lineage. These items, many believed, were destined to be shared or at least handled with care. Instead, the clause suggested a sole recipient, designated only by the phrase, "the future protector of our bloodline's truth." The vault had been transferred into William's possession years earlier, but this clause now cast doubt on whether that transfer had been premature or, worse, intentional. Harry's legal team prepared to challenge the inheritance, while William remained unflinching, arguing that all documentation had been reviewed and finalized with full transparency. But inside royal corridors, whispers began to swell rumors that Diana's will had been adjusted in her final weeks. Adjusted, some said, not by Diana herself, but by those closest to her, eager to secure the monarchy's path. This revelation, buried beneath decades of silence, tore open a wound both brothers had tried to ignore. Diana, the one figure who had united them, now stood between them through ink, clauses, and interpretations neither could agree upon. The emotional stakes had turned into legal warfare, and still, the questions loomed. Who had guided Diana's hand in those final edits? Who had known about the sunset clause? And why had it taken so long to surface? Answers were scarce, but resentment was overflowing. Harry, feeling robbed not just of money but of meaning, became determined to reclaim what he believed was rightfully his. William, increasingly hardened, stood his ground as the appointed guardian of the crown's continuity, and if Diana's hidden clause cracked the bond, what came next would incinerate it. The Queen's private estate, Sandringham, was suddenly up for division, and Harry wanted his cut. No royal ever asks for a piece of Sandringham. It's understood. It stays in the monarchy. Yet Harry, in a confidential letter, demanded a formal evaluation of the estate's worth and asked for his share. William's fury was immediate. Because if Harry touched Sandringham, it meant rewriting royal history. The estate wasn't just land. It was legacy. For over a century, Sandringham had passed through the hands of reigning monarchs without ever being sold, divided, or dissected. It wasn't a possession, it was a pillar, a place where duty breathed through the walls and tradition soaked the soil. So when Harry, already separated from royal duties and living across his parties of the Atlantic, dared to question its financial value, it was seen not as a request, but as a declaration of war. The letter, addressed directly to royal advisors, was sharp and unapologetic. He wanted a formal appraisal, complete transparency of assets, and a legal determination of what, if anything, he was entitled to. Within days, that letter, never meant to be seen outside the inner circle, was leaked to the press, and the monarchy was set ablaze. To William, this wasn't just another headline, it was personal. Sandringham was where they had celebrated Christmas as children, where their grandparents had reigned, where their father had been groomed for the crown. It was sacred. For Harry to reduce it to a line item on an inheritance list felt like sacrilege. Behind closed doors, William reportedly erupted, accusing his brother of trying to dismantle everything the family had protected for generations. He told close aides, "This isn't about money. This is about identity." And he's trying to erase it. That sentiment echoed through palace walls until it reached the Queen herself, whose icy response sent a chill through the firm. In a private conversation, she was said to have whispered only 7 words. "He's tearing apart his bloodline for profit." But the storm was only beginning. Inside Charles's court, the tension was unbearable. The king was forced to choose between the 2 roles he had always tried to balance, father and sovereign. On one side was his younger son, whose pain and disillusionment Charles understood all too well. On the other, the heir, the future king, whose anger was grounded not just in tradition, but in fear that this rupture would signal the monarchy's unraveling. Charles remained outwardly neutral, but those closest to him saw the toll. Days passed without statements, weeks without resolution, and all the while, media hysteria swelled as the public questioned why the family seemed more at war with itself than ever before. And then came the moment that many say was the true breaking point. William, unable to remain silent, confronted Harry in what sources describe as an emotionally charged exchange. Face to face, away from advisors and aides, William allegedly told his brother, "You're not acting like a Windsor anymore. You're becoming a Spencer." It was a deep, personal jab, one that drew blood. Because in royal circles, to be called a Spencer was to invoke Diana's fire, her rebellion, her pain, and her destruction. Harry didn't respond with words. But something in him reportedly shifted, because now, this wasn't just about fairness or legacy. It was about being seen, being heard, being believed. But if property could spark anger, it was the people and their shifting loyalties that turned this inheritance dispute into a royal battlefield. The public saw cold glances and avoided eye contact, but behind palace doors, two women were waging a silent war. Kate and Meghan, once posed as peacemakers, became generals in a battle of influence, money, and legacy. And one secretly fed information that ignited the brothers' clash even further. It started subtly comments made behind closed doors, suspicions whispered through tightly controlled inner circles. But within months, what had been a cold tension escalated into strategic maneuvering. Meghan, aware of Harry's growing resentment over the inheritance entanglements, reportedly urged him to secure what's his before it's gone. She framed it not as greed, but as self-preservation. According to those close to the couple, Meghan believed the royal institution had deliberately narrowed Harry's access to Diana's wealth, and that William, whether consciously or not, was benefiting from it. In private, she called it erasure, and Harry listened. But across the aisle, Kate was already watching. Kate, reserved but precise, had begun noticing inconsistencies, leaked details appearing in media outlets with APRT the tells. Uncanny timing. She intercepted a digital communication that left her stunned. A forwarded document, originally classified within the Royal Estate's financial office, now being discussed on a West Coast phone call. Her instinct told her where it came from, and though she didn't confront Meghan directly, she warned William that there was a deliberate effort underway to undermine the royal narrative. That wasn't speculation, it was calculation. But the palace didn't have room for two queens in waiting. A private meeting was arranged between the two duchesses, without aides or advisors. The goal, to de-escalate. The result, emotional fallout. What was supposed to be a reconciliation dissolved into accusations, tears, and ultimately, silence. According to one insider, Meghan arrived with receipts, emails, texts, timelines, proof that she and Harry had been sidelined, edited out of the royal future. Kate countered not with evidence but with conviction. She accused Meghan of turning a family crisis into a media weapon. The meeting ended without a handshake. From that moment, the palace became divided not by rank, but by loyalty. Royal aides, speechwriters, press officers, everyone had a side, even if they pretended neutrality. Team Cambridge versus Team Sussex wasn't a tabloid fiction anymore. It was the internal reality of the crown. And with each passing week, the media reflected the split. Leaks appeared in conservative-leaning tabloids just days after Sussex confidants gave veiled interviews to progressive outlets. It was no longer a question of who leaked it, was a question of why. Then came the moment that shattered the last illusion of civility. A voicemail. Accidentally recorded. Never meant to be heard. It was Meghan's voice, urging Harry to keep pressing, even if it means breaking everything. It wasn't illegal. It wasn't scandalous, but it was strategic, and when Kate heard it forwarded anonymously to her private line, it confirmed every suspicion. Harry's campaign for inheritance justice wasn't spontaneous. It was coordinated, encouraged, and, to some, manipulated. Meghan had become more than an outsider, she was a disruptor. No shouting, no threats. Just one sealed envelope hand-delivered by the Queen's most trusted aide. In it was Her Majesty's chilling response to the brothers' war over inheritance. It wasn't just a message, it was an ultimatum. And one of them would walk away feeling disowned. Inside the envelope was a letter unlike any ever issued from the monarch to her own kin. It was precise, cold in its clarity, and written not as a grandmother, but as the crown incarnate. The message was simple, yet devastating in implication. Duty over entitlement, tradition over desire. If Harry wished to continue laying legal claim to parts of the royal inheritance, he would need to formally relinquish his titles and any association with the House of Windsor. The monarchy, she wrote, could not be held hostage by personal ambition. There could be no half-royals in a full war. This wasn't punishment. This was preservation. The tone, according to those who saw it, was devoid of sentimentality. It was a command, not a conversation. And in the final paragraph came the blow no one expected. Blood, she wrote, is not always thicker than duty. But the letter was only the first strike. Before the ink had dried, the Queen summoned William for a private audience. What was discussed behind those gilded doors would remain sealed from public knowledge, but a senior courtier later confided that Her Majesty had expressed real fear of a dynastic collapse. Not just a scandal, not just public embarrassment, collapse. She believed that if the brothers continued on this path, the royal family would fracture beyond repair, and the crown's moral authority could disintegrate in a single generation. William reportedly vowed to protect the institution with everything he had, but protecting the monarchy, in this case, meant standing against his own brother, and he knew it. Across the Atlantic, Harry received the letter with trembling hands and, for the first time in months, picked up the phone to call his father. What he got in return was not outrage, not comfort, but silence. Charles listened, and said almost nothing. His few words, cold and calculated, implied neutrality, or cowardice. But to Harry, it felt like abandonment. The Queen's ultimatum had stripped away the last illusion of familial security. There were no more shared memories of Diana, no more brotherly bonds to lean on. It was all law now. Legal boundaries, royal expectations, corporate monarchy. And behind it all, Meghan's presence loomed larger than ever in the Queen's mind. Though never named directly in the letter, insiders say her influence was implied throughout. Her guidance, her persistence, her role in advising Harry through this scorched earth approach. What might have once been a personal grievance had grown into a constitutional threat. The Queen, once hopeful that distance would cool the tension, now saw it differently. Distance had become danger, and Meghan, to some in the palace, wasn't just guiding Harry, she was steering him. And yet, even the Queen's decree couldn't stop the storm that followed, because Harry didn't fold. He didn't retreat. Instead, he retaliated. And he did it with the full weight of the law behind him. But even the Queen's word could not halt what came next. Harry's legal counterstrike and the public spectacle no royal ever wanted. And when Kate found the voicemail, she did the unthinkable, she went to the Queen. The monarchy has always handled its business in whispers, but Harry made it official. Legal documents were filed, lawyers summoned, and suddenly the House of Windsor was staring down its greatest threat, not from outside but from its own bloodline. What had begun as a bitter family, the disagreement had now transformed into a legal juggernaut aimed straight at the heart of the institution. Harry's legal team moved swiftly and without compromise. Their demands were piercing, full transparency of all inheritance disbursements dating back 20 years. That meant digging into Diana's financial legacy, scrutinizing estate transfers, trust fund dispersals, and royal asset consolidations. It meant examining how William's finances had been handled versus Harry's. It meant shining a light on areas the monarchy had kept buried under generations of discretion. And once the filings hit the court system, there was no turning back. The veil had been lifted. The war was now public, William, blindsided by the aggressive strategy, wasn't about to retreat. His legal team launched a brutal counter-offensive, threatening to unseal private spending records tied to Harry and Meghan during their final years as working royals. It wasn't just about salaries or staff. It reached deeper. Security costs, renovation expenses, travel invoices. Even undisclosed perks absorbed quietly by the Crown were now under threat of exposure. Behind palace walls, the fear wasn't just reputational damage, it was collapse. This wasn't a scandal to be buried with a palace statement. This was a courtroom brawl with royal blood on the floor. King Charles, watching as the family unraveled in headlines and legal filings, attempted to intervene. He called for an emergency video meeting, just the three of them. Reports suggest he begged his sons to reconsider, not for him, but for the monarchy. But Harry, firm and unmoved, refused to withdraw. His words were described as cutting. He reportedly told Charles, "You chose the crown long ago, I'm choosing the truth now." And with that, the bridges Charles had hoped to rebuild turned to ash. The royal patriarch, once seen as the quiet mediator, now looked like a powerless observer of his dynasty's implosion. And then, the press got hold of the filings. The headlines were merciless. Harry sues the Crown. Cambridge finances under scrutiny. Palace payback turns legal. The tabloids declared a royal civil war. Late-night hosts mocked the firm's dysfunction. But nothing stirred the pot more than Meghan's unexpected return to the spotlight. In a teaser for her upcoming podcast episode, she spoke cryptically about a war over wealth, legacy, and truth. No names mentioned, but the timing was no coincidence, and the effect was explosive. Within days, palace insiders were shaken by another development. A long-time royal financial advisor, known for his discretion and decades of loyal service, tendered his resignation. Officially, it was called a personal decision. Unofficially, the whispers were far darker. Rumors swirled of veiled threats, secret recordings, and an alleged attempt to suppress internal memos. The story grew more toxic by the hour. The palace was no longer just weathering a storm. It was being dragged into the courtroom where centuries of carefully curated secrecy risked being shredded in the name of justice. The monarchy's financial underbelly now lay exposed, but one more twist remained: an ancient letter from Diana, hidden for decades, surfaced at the peak of the chaos, written in shaky pen, buried in a locked box, and found by a former aide. Diana's final letter to her sons was never meant to be seen by the world. But it held her true vision of their future, and it contradicted everything they believed. The letter emerged like a ghost at the height of the storm, its timing uncanny, its content irreversible. It was discovered during a routine archival review by one of Diana's former personal aides, long since retired, who had been organizing personal effects for donation. Folded inside a weathered leather notebook was the letter, dated just weeks before her death. At first glance, it appeared heartfelt, a mother's final thoughts. But as its contents became known, it became clear this wasn't just a goodbye. It was a warning, a prophecy, and most of all, a plea. In it, Diana wrote with emotion and urgency. She described her deepest fear that William, molded by duty and obligation, would become too loyal to the institution and lose touch with his humanity. But the more jarring revelation came in her line about Harry. He must be free, even if it breaks William. Those words, raw and unresolved, struck like a dagger. Diana saw their future not as united but divided, and she seemed to accept that it might have to be that way. Her language implied foresight of conflict, possibly even estrangement. She went further, identifying specific assets, personal, private pieces of her estate that she wanted Harry to own outright, not out of favoritism, but protection. He will be hunted by tradition, she wrote, and must have something that is his alone. The letter, once authenticated, was impossible to ignore. It was leaked no one knows by whom, and soon plastered across every major outlet, shaking the monarchy to its core. Public reaction was swift and devastating. Sympathy for Harry skyrocketed. His portrayal shifted from rebel to rightful heir of a mother's love and foresight. Suddenly, the narrative that he had betrayed the firm was rewritten. Maybe, just maybe, the firm had betrayed him first. Meghan's defenders seized the moment, framing the letter as proof that Diana had seen the same darkness they now claimed to endure. But within the walls of the palace, the atmosphere turned funereal. William, upon receiving a private copy of the letter before the leak, reportedly locked himself away. Aides said no one saw him for hours, and when he finally emerged, his eyes were red. No statement was ever issued, but the pain, the grief, the realization that even in Diana's most vulnerable moment, she foresaw their separation cut deeper than any legal blow. This wasn't about property or protocol anymore. This was about memory. Legacy. A mother's love divided by duty. And just as the emotional wreckage seemed complete, another player stepped in, one whose silence had fueled the fire all along. King Charles. He watched. He waited. And finally, Charles spoke, but not to reconcile. Instead, he played his ultimate card, redefining the monarchy's line of legacy and wealth distribution. His decision would split the family forever, but secure his throne. In an official statement, polished with the language of progress, Charles announced a sweeping modernization of royal inheritance procedures. The crown, he declared, could no longer sustain the weight of tradition for tradition's sake. Efficiency, duty, and active service would now be the guiding principles for royal entitlements. Behind the polished press release was the brutal reality. Non-working royals were to be excluded from financial privilege. And at the top of that list were Harry and Meghan. Overnight, they were removed from all royal beneficiary accounts. Trusts that once tied them to their heritage were closed. Any future claims were dissolved. What remained of Diana's legacy within the royal infrastructure was sealed shut behind new clauses designed to prevent external disruption. It was less a policy shift and more a surgical strike. The power move didn't stop there. Charles granted William full stewardship of the Duchy of Cornwall's vast assets, transferring not only control but symbolic authority. In doing so, he fortified William's future as king, both financially and constitutionally. There would be no ambiguity, no space for shared lineage. Only one line would remain intact, undiluted, unchallenged. And when asked during a press conference about the family's recent tensions, Charles chose his words with calculated precision. He praised stability and the wisdom of duty, while subtly referencing the chaos bred by emotional impulsiveness. It didn't take a genius to decode the subtext. Harry's volatility had made him unworthy of royal trust. The backlash was swift and global. Supporters of Harry and Meghan erupted online, branding the move as exile under the guise of reform. Commentators called it the coldest royal maneuver since Edward VIII's abdication. Meghan's team issued no formal statement, but cryptic social media activity hinted at betrayal and retribution. In California, sources say the mood was raw. Harry, blindsided by the timing, felt not only disinherited but erased. But behind palace doors, another layer unfolded. William received a handwritten note from his father, private, sealed, and delivered without press. In it, Charles wrote only one line that would haunt William for months to come. This was never personal. It was necessary. Whether it was meant as comfort or warning, no one could say. But the message was unmistakable. The crown survives by sacrifice, and if that meant severing a son, so be it. But the king's move wasn't the end. It was the spark. The next morning, Harry appeared on international television and dropped the bombshell that would rewrite everything. No one expected it, not even Meghan. But live on global television, Harry revealed the one truth he swore he'd never speak. The real reason he asked for his inheritance. And it wasn't about money. It was about a promise Diana made that the monarchy tried to erase. He sat alone, across from the interviewer, Not flanked by legal advisors or media handlers, just a single man with the weight of a royal legacy pressing down on him. And then, with millions watching, he opened the vault of silence. Harry began with the words that stunned the world. "My mother told me never be owned by the crown." He said it slowly, deliberately, as if daring the institution to deny it. He claimed Diana had warned him that power within the monarchy came at the price of truth, and that if he ever felt the system using him, he was to walk away. The inheritance, he said, was never about wealth, it was about independence. A final layer of protection Diana left for the son she knew would one day need to escape. But it didn't stop there. Harry went deeper. He alleged that even after stepping away from royal duties, he had been pressured to remain silent about matters that went beyond family disputes, whispers of internal cover-ups, reputational manipulation, and secrets that, if revealed, would shatter the monarchy's image of unity. He claimed documents had been redacted, media narratives planted, and moments of truth rewritten to protect those still inside the walls. Then came the moment no one was prepared for. Harry leaned forward, pulled a small device from his pocket, and played a voice recording one no broadcaster had. Previewed. It was Diana, the unmistakable voice of the late Princess of Wales, recorded in 1996. The audio was crackly but clear. In it, she spoke of a growing fear. "They will turn my sons against each other. There will be a war between them if I'm not here to protect them." Her voice trembled with eerie foresight. The silence in the studio was deafening. Even Meghan, watching from the side stage, looked visibly shaken. Sources later claimed she had no idea Harry possessed the recording. The audience sat frozen, as the emotional gravity of a mother's prophecy collided with the devastating present. Within minutes, social media exploded. Hashtags trended worldwide. Public opinion, already fractured, imploded into chaos. Royalists accused Harry of betrayal. Others hailed him as the voice of a new generation. Major networks paused regular programming to dissect every syllable. The palace, for the first time in modern history, issued no comment. It was as if even they had no problem. Strategy for a revelation this raw, this undeniable. And just when it seemed like he had emptied his soul, Harry looked directly into the camera and delivered one final line that left the world hanging. "This isn't about inheritance, it's about freedom. And I'm not done." It was a declaration, not of vengeance but of intent. A warning that what had been exposed was only the beginning, and that the war Diana feared had truly begun. Because in the world of crowns and bloodlines, nothing ever truly ends. And the next chapter may be even darker. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and we will see you in next one.